Hey Austin, quick question: is there one bed or two beds in your room in Lima?
One bed, but I only use one side of the bed.
You only use one side. Like, well, hold on, wait. So I was gonna ask a question, but a different question now. When you have a bed to yourself, you still just sleep like you're with a partner?
I do not sleep in the center of the bed. No, I mean unless if it's bigger than a twin, then yeah, I will probably prefer one side because I do use I do end up using the table thing because I put my water there, I have my medication there, stuff like that. I'm probably plugged into my phone. These are actually a really good reason. So I don't have a 10-foot long cable. So.
Okay, I'm interested in what other people have opinions about this. Please respond. If I'm in a king-size bed by myself, I'm sleeping like a crazy person, like diagonally or a starfish or not nice and neat like you do. But when I share a bed, it's very consensual, cooperative, nice. I was just curious if
what is this, your dating profile we're writing right now?
No, I'm not writing a dating profile. I'm just asking if there's room if I were to just happen to need somewhere to sleep in Lima come, say, Saturday. Yeah. Should this be an off the podcast conversation? I just need to I have a flight, but not like a bed. Is what I'm saying. I should have asked before I booked. Actually,
as long as you are consensual and cooperative and whatever the fuck else you said.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I booked a ticket to come to Lima.
Good. I like how we see each other more at events halfway across the world than we do in Los Angeles.
We live literally less than an hour away from each other.
Yeah.
And I like where you live.
For, though.
Yeah,
for me to avoid driving anywhere.
It's true, but I like where you live, and I'm over there. Sometimes I'm by your house, and I'm like, I should talk to Austin. But that's neither here nor there. I booked a ticket to Lima because I have this suspicion. Call it hopium or copium or foolishness that Team Liquid might win the major.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good for sure. I think Blitz was the most worried about their first playoff match, and they won that 2-0. It seemed, not that I watched it because it was like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m.
We can get there in a moment. We can get there.
I had to be awake at 7 a.m., so I wasn't sticking up to watch that one. But it did seem pretty one-sided. So
what was encouraging about it is game 2 was a little bit, rough and tumble for early mid game, but we I'm on the team, just like played better and clawed a lead back. So I feel good. I want to be there to make content. That's what I'm telling the people to justify it as a business trip, right?
Yeah, instead of saying that you're taking even more time off.
It's not time off if it's over a week. Okay, dude, I have a red-eye flight on Friday night. I'm working all day Friday. I will get to Lima Saturday morning, a couple hours before the game, and then I leave on Monday. So for all intents and purposes, I'm not missing any time of work. I'm just going to South America. And I've heard a rumor that it's warm there. What should I be packing?
Tank top and shorts. That's what you should be packing.
Copy.
It's hot. I mean, it's not like overwhelmingly hot. It's like in the 80s. In the sun, it's probably a bit uncomfortable. But the stadium is warm, for sure.
Were you at the event when it was snowing at home?
Yes, I was. In fact, Ellie told me it snowed in Glendale, like the lightest little snow. It snowed today.
Yeah. It's snowing right now in parts. It's actually sunny outside for where I am.
What the fuck is going on?
I think, I don't want to make this podcast political, but I heard a rumor, I don't know, climate change?
I believe it's called global warming.
No. You're doing it right. Climate change.
Could use some of that global warming about right now. Am I right?
Am I fucking right? Who are you, my dad? Yeah. Crazy weather. I'll make sure to leave my ski jacket at home and then pack a tank top. I'm excited about going, and we can talk about the actual event and how it's breaking down in the group stage in a second. But I think what more people are probably interested in is the not to be that guy, but the drama of the situation. Because if I'm to load up Reddit or Twitch chat or Twitter or anywhere that people are talking about Dota, I'm seeing things like Shanghai Major 2.0 or photos of games being paused so we can duct tape booths back together. And as somebody who has a production background, I'm just confused and concerned and conflicted. I found a third one. What's going on in Lima, Austin?
Okay, so next week, we'll see if he backs down from this. But I believe next week we're gonna have Avo on, Avo Plus, who's one of the commentators, and he has a lot more inside information as to what's going on here in Lima. But I will just try and be as objective as possible initially, and just state kind of what I have seen, and then I'll give kind of my take on it. So the Lima Major, well, I can say let's start off with my first day. So we did rehearsal, and by rehearsal, I mean that we got driven to Aorus is a computer company of some kind. I don't know exactly what they make. But we went to their offices. That is where they had some sort of office, and they had set it up for us to be able to cast out of there. And by set it up, I mean these guys aren't actual. I don't know exactly what they are, but these are not broadcast guys, right? They set up a table. And I think they put up, I think they set up a sheet between the two rooms, and they basically did the kind of, hey, here's a room, right? Which is exactly what they were supposed to do, as far as I understand. They did a good job, and they tried to help out as much as they could. But outside of that, there wasn't actually really a broadcast setup. So I can say.
What were you rehearsing then?
Well, we didn't. That's how, Joey. We sat around for 2 to 3 hours, did absolutely nothing, and called a rehearsal. And that is not atypical for an esports broadcast, just to let you guys know. We do get paid for rehearsal days. I charge half of my day rate for a rehearsal day. And sometimes those rehearsals are literally walking around the stadium being like, hey, here's where you're going to be, and this is what it looks like. And okay, we're done. To other times it's, hey, sorry guys, it's just going to be another hour, and then we'll be ready to do rehearsal after we've waited, 5 or 6 hours. And
I've had to be that producer before. That I have empathy for the person telling you that.
Yeah,
not great.
And, It's annoying. I consider it a waste of. I dislike wasted time, but I understand these things happen, and you're also paying me half my day rate, so I have no room to complain whatsoever. I'm getting paid for that day. You can have me for, reasonably. I would prefer to keep it less than 12 hours. But that's the thing. So we did nothing. We sat there for about 3 hours, basically. Our guy showed us a computer and a monitor that was set up on the side, and showed us a vMix program and a saved a saved project that you could open up that was supposed to have like the things, but it was not actually set up to stream. We didn't realize that at the time, but it wasn't actually set up to stream. He just showed us how to basically click load and then the broadcast.exe file or whatever the fuck, and that was it. It literally was like a 2-minute, hey, here's this. After we waited around for like 2.5 hours, did that and didn't do a rehearsal because there was no mics, there wasn't a table set up yet, and so on and so forth. We get there the next day to actually start the group stage broadcast, expecting like when this happens, when we don't actually do a rehearsal, it's because, okay, we're still setting things up. It'll be done by tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. We get there tomorrow. It's not set up. The AORS guys did put up the table, and they put up the curtain to be able to help with the noise between the two rooms, and there was a camera set up, but we had to set up our laptops, and the microphones were plugged in, but the biggest thing was vMix was not set up to stream. It wasn't actually set up to send the information to BTS Brazil, who was the guys doing the production for the online part of it. As far as who's responsible for that, between ePulse and BTS Brazil, I don't really know, and I'll let Avo tackle that subject if he does come on. But BTS Brazil were the guys that I was talking to get these things done. We didn't have a production guy there, mm-hmm. So when we're trying to like put together this, and they're saying we're not getting a broadcast from you. Join, this vMix call, and can you get on Discord? What I ended up doing was I ended up calling the BTS Brazil producer on my phone, and I turned on the camera and showed him the screen of the PC. That was supposed to be the production PC, and was like, hey, walk me through like what the fuck you want me to do here.
I know you know this, but that's pretty above and beyond for talent.
Yeah, I'm not a production person. It may sound a little like pretentious, but like my job is to get in there, sit in the seat, and speak when I'm supposed to speak. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. But like, I care about the show. I want it to be good, and I could tell things were not set up. And so I start talking to this BTS Brazil producer. I'm telling the AORS guys like, hey, we need this. Hey, we need this. And then it kind of dawns on me. Sorry, I'm terrible at telling this story right now. It's been kind of a long day. It dawns on me, the guys that I'm talking to in the office, this is how I should have said this story. The guys I'm talking to in the office, I'm talking to them, and I'm like, hey, do you know like what we need to do here? And they're saying, you need to talk to BTS. Initially, I did not know I was working with BTS Brazil. I thought they were talking about Beyond the Summit. I was just like, what? I was like, okay. And then I joined the BTS Brazil Discord. I figure out kind of what's going on here. And then I go back to those guys, and I was like, hey, who do you guys work for? And they say, AORS.
No.
We're the guys in the office. And I was like, I've been asking you guys to do production things. I'm sorry, like, this isn't your responsibility, is it? And they're like, no. And one of the guys was being really nice and was trying to help out. And so I was just like, oh, all right, I'm sorry. This isn't your guys' responsibility at all. Let me go talk to this other guy. And nobody sent us with a production person. They just sent talent to an office to do the group stage, and there was no production person.
Nobody from ePulse was there? Or 4D? I
don't know how many people from ePulse are actually here. I think it's only like 4. But I was told by ePulse that there were supposed to be 2 people with us, and there was no people with us. And
those 2 people are probably having a shit
BTS Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, you guys need to send somebody here. Like, you have to actually have a production person here. Like, this isn't set up, and even if it was set up, what if we encounter problems? Like, I don't know how to do like I'm fine with doing this, but I don't know how to do this. So the fuck do you want me to do?
Austin didn't tell me this beforehand. I'm literally my mind is melting right now. How did the group stage even happen?
So initially we couldn't get a what is it, like Open Desk? Is that the sharings? Anyway, one of those like sharing your PC folders,
like TeamViewer
programs.
Or
sorry,
yeah, you know.
Yeah. Initially we couldn't get the program to work, probably because, to be honest, I think the Aorus guy was trying to do it, and I'm not sure if he totally understood what to do. So then when I took over the PC, like I was able to get the guy onto any desk, and he was able to like start doing some production stuff. And yeah, but I was doing like the Discord call during that time and like showing the monitor and telling him what our setup was, and also over and over again saying you need to send somebody here.
Oh my God.
And the meantime, the funny part is, we're in this WhatsApp group with the panel who are in the hotel and the ePulse production guys. Again, I only think there's like 4 actual ePulse guys here. Everybody else is like a contractor or 4D or in that case, BTS Brazil. So they are talking about like this is like a half an hour before the show is supposed to go live, and I'm like, hey,
no,
are you guys still planning on having a check-in with the commentators before the game? And they're like, yeah. And I look at our desk, which we're just now setting the laptops up on, and I'm like, about that, you should cancel that. And then about a minute later, I'm like, and you should also plan that we're probably not going to be casting game 1 at all. just to try and like kind of be like, hey, I'm not trying to be over dramatic, but like we're literally, it's not good here, guys, and you should plan on us. You should have a backup plan. I thought maybe they would just like quote unquote cast the games from like their panel or something like that, because they have this like hub stream, but
which wasn't working.
Yeah, that had its own problems that they're trying to put out fires for. So yeah,
I have so many questions. I have so many questions that I should have written some of them down. Holy shit. Can you clarify what the difference between ePulse and 4D is here? I've seen them kind of like thrown around interchangeably.
ePulse is okay. So 4D was awarded the major. They are a South American organization. Mm-hmm. They were the ones who did the SA-DPC last year. Mm-hmm. And ePulse is a partner of theirs who is a European company that it does have like kind of an office in Southeast Asia, and they work with the office that we work out of, I believe, is called EBN, Esports Business Network, or something like that, mm-hmm. In Malaysia. And so they are partnered with EBN, and that's the offices that we do the SEA DPC broadcast out.
Got it. So was 4D subcontracting ePulse to run just the English broadcast?
Yes. I think that relationship is a little bit closer than just that, because we're actually here in Peru. So I think basically 4D was like, hey, we're kind of a small organization. Would you like to partner up and do this together, sort of thing, in some capacity? So I don't think it's strictly like a subcontracting English thing, but it's hard for me to tell exactly.
Understood. And I don't want to be here to speculate. So
sure.
Is ePulse also doing like the Spanish stream? And then sub question, is the Spanish stream having similar issues?
No, I believe ePulse is only in charge of, quote unquote, the English broadcast, and not any of the other. languages. The
Because that's what it looks like on
broadcast-
Twitch, like when you go to view the channel pages.
Yeah, because you're going to ePulse's channel, which I imagine is part of like their whole arrangement. The Spanish broadcast is not having nearly as many issues. My understanding of that is that the English broadcast is not getting the same kind of treatment, I guess, as the Spanish broadcast.
Well, that makes sense a little bit, right?
Yes.
Because doesn't at other majors that are primarily like in English-speaking countries, like it's kind of the opposite, right? Where the home language gets more probably treatment.
For sure. There are certain things that you would probably expect to happen. For example, I'm going to use some production language here, so you can probably help me guide this conversation. But today there was a problem with the audio cable that was basically in charge of the entire English broadcast.
Like the physical XLR?
Yeah, the front of show, they lay down all the wiring and everything to set up these broadcasts, right? My understanding is that they only laid down one wire for this.
Okay.
And my understanding is that is not a good idea because broadcasts are supposed to have backup on backup on backup.
Yeah, without listening to me soapbox about live broadcasting, redundancy is really important because if your audio drops because somebody stepped on your cable or a bird ate your mixer or something, like you just need to be able to get it back up pretty expeditiously. So one cable is silly. One untested cable is silly. If you have any of that cable, it's like crossing power, you're going to have issues. There's a lot of like potential points of failure. Is JJ at the major?
Yes.
Is he melting? Does he want to like jump off a bridge?
As far as my understanding is that he is not in charge of I think he is relatively hands-off here. He is in charge of the observers, and I believe he is like a consultant here. But
yeah. And to be clear, I don't want to say that like nothing is his fault, but I am assuming that like if I was in his position as somebody who knows a little bit more about this stuff, runs broadcasts, and is there and watching stuff on fire, I would either want to be running around and fixing everything, which is a problem, or just completely shutting down, which is also a problem. My assumption is that he's probably not having a fun time because he's well aware of some of this stuff more so than other people who are visiting.
No, that person is Richie Seek and Strike, who he is the person who is. God, I feel so bad for him. He has been trying to put out fires that nonstop, and I don't believe any of them are. Or most of them are his fault at all. So that person is Seek and Strike, who has had to give up his position as talent in this entire affair to try and fix the show. So every single time I've seen him, he looks sleep deprived and extremely stressed. And this was supposed to be a chance for him to cast, playoffs a major. But instead he's doing this. So, shout out to that guy. He is working incredibly hard to try and get this over the finish line in some kind of affair. But
I'll make sure to give him a hug. But like, holy shit. So the group stage had a lot of delays because just stuff wasn't set up, and also there weren't people on site, and also some of the talent were trying to fix problems. Which explains a little bit of that.
I think about 20 minutes into the broadcast is when we finally got our setup ready to go. 20 minutes into game one, they started the broadcast without us, which was another problem, right? English production wasn't ready. They started the games anyway. So we didn't have a stream until 20 minutes into the game. And it wasn't a working stream when we started it because the audio was all fucked. Also, our headsets had like a half a second delay on our own voices. So that made casting extremely hard.
Impossible. I don't even know how you did that. Without you had to take your headphones off, probably, right? Because has anybody ever used a voice jammer? If anybody is curious what it's like to try and speak while listening to yourself with a very small delay, I would encourage you to like go to a website that allows like a voice jammer website or any program that could do that for you on your phone, and just try and speak or watch videos of people trying to do it. It's hilarious. It ruins your brain.
Yeah, no, it really does. So if you notice any mistakes during the group stage, which you probably couldn't even hear us to begin with, but if you notice any weird casting, that would be why. I had one ear off on my headset all the time because of that. We ended up fixing the problem, I think, the next day by cutting the audio entirely inside our headsets because we couldn't figure out how to fix that solution. So that was our solution. So we had no audio in our ears, which means we couldn't hear each other, really, and we had no game sounds whatsoever. But that was still better than being speech jammed. So, yeah.
Dude.
So day 2 ends with, my day 2 ended with me leaving right as we were trying to fix something and the power just went out in the office. I left while the power was still out because I was like, well, my job is done and I can't help you guys anyway.
I'm not an electrician,
I would
everybody.
always tell. Yeah, I always kept telling the ePulse guys and especially Richie and Avo, like, hey, if you guys need anything from me, just let me know. Unfortunately, I'm not well versed in production, so I can't actually like help fix these things. But if you need me to do something, I'll do it. And so I left, but the internet and electricity were both a problem in that office, and I think they finally figured out a setup that they can have in the hotel. So that's why day 3 and 4 and 5 of the group stage went. I believe we had very little problems on the actual casting streams because we moved out of the offices and into the hotel, which required some people to stay up all night to be able to make happen.
That's
right?
not easy.
They had to move the production setup.
Because you have 3
set
streams?
it up in a hotel room.
4 streams, right? That's
we had
4
2
setups?
streams.
Okay, only 2.
2 remote and 2 in-house. So, yeah. So that was that. We've had similar issues with the arena broadcast, but similarly, day 1 and 2 were by far the worst, and day 3, 4, and 5 will hopefully go a bit better. But
why?
Yeah, it's not been a super fun event.
Why was the day 1 broadcast 17 hours? just for anybody who doesn't know, because like I've been doing a lot of stuff recently. I was not watching. I do not understand what happened aside from people memeing about like delay screens. So like is there like a TLDR of why it took so long? Was there like one major problem? Was there
there was a lot of audio issues for the players in the booths. Because I was on the opening series. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the players saying something like in chat, it's like, we can't start the game because we can't hear ourselves. Expecting us to play without audio is a joke or something like that. So I do know there was audio issues for them there and being able to hear each other and stuff. English broadcast was still having some various issues as well, but I don't think that ever delayed the broadcast. Everything that's delayed the broadcast since we've been in the arena is, I believe, anyway, all on the setup inside of the booths and stuff like that. Whether it's like some lag issues or some audio issues or a cable falling and needing to be taped back up.
Anybody who's listened to me talk about production on the show for years at this point has probably heard me say time and time again that like the most important thing to get right is audio, because it's the hardest thing to get right. And you know, you hear it here for the players, you hear it here for the casters, you hear it for the stream, for the setup in the arena, you hear the echo. Like, all of these are different audio problems, and they're all audio problems. It is probably it is the easiest thing to fuck up, and it is the most noticeable thing when it is bad. If your camera shots aren't great, if you're a little bit out of focus, if you switch to the wrong graphic, if you flub up as somebody who's on camera, all of that will be forgiven and like forgot about, unless it's really bad, like pretty instantaneously. If people can't listen to something right, they will notice, they will harp on it, and it will follow you, and it is hard to fix. We still, a decade later, talk about the NASL sound guy, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of an example of what the problem could be. And, we're having NASL sound guy issues with the Lima Major, from what I've noticed. So that's rough. That is also not a line to cheap out on. Like, if you're production, the audio person makes a lot of money for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even want to speculate, but maybe there's not a professional audio person who's doing the in-studio broadcast or setting up the booths or stuff like that. And if you are just like a layman who is trying to learn, or someone who has like good tech experience and thinks you can do it, you will fuck something up. 100%.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, in the middle of this event, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna learn more about audio production. And so I was like, I was gonna ask you to give me a little 101, because honestly, I think it would help a lot if I just knew some of these things, because sometimes productions can still be a bit amateur in this regard. To combo off real quickly, you said 17-hour stream. It was a 17-hour stream. I saw this on Reddit. It's a 17-hour stream. He added up all the gameplay time, and it only comes down to 5 hours and 56 minutes. So there's 11 hours of not Dota going on. And obviously, a couple of those hours are like, worth. Their panel time, they're in between, game break time and stuff like that. Those are all fine. But obviously, a significant chunk is delays.
My favorite Reddit post that I saw yesterday was the person who took a photo of the screen and calculated the size of it. Like, they did the math level shit to be like, oh, actually, I believe the screen is only, it's like looking at a 28-inch screen from like 20 feet away and stuff like that. So I've also seen a lot of complaint posts about just, being in the venue because of heat or toilets or not having food or not being allowed re-entry. I've seen people joking about the crowd leaving. The one thing that I'm pretty sensitive to and have actually been doing some moderating for on Reddit are people who are just blaming the region for bad production. And I think that is just bordering on racism, if not just outright racism. Because like they have raves in that venue, like people like Bad Bunny goes and plays in Lima, like they can do a show. There's been Dota events in the past in Peru, in South America. Riot just did their VCT stuff, which is still going on in Brazil. Like, it is not like this is what we get, we're cheaping out because we're going to Lima or Malaysia or what have you. That's really like the regionality is not a part of the problem. If you have this same crew with the same money do stuff in California, guess what? It would be even worse because the money's not going to go as far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? To combo off of what you said about audio, that's what it was. The audio, you said that you're gonna notice. Well, there is some audio stuff that you won't notice, which is the stuff that's going on in the headsets of the casters. So I just wanted to, like, the day one of the arena. we did the opening cast, and so like the audio, like the microphone audio is bad, but our headset audio was also a problem. Avery and I couldn't hear each other for our cast.
Oh, in the arena with like the crowd going around you?
Yeah, because there was a crowd, and they were pretty loud, but also our voices were not going into our headsets. So I think we were getting game sound, but we weren't getting I wasn't getting my own voice or Avery's voice, and vice versa. So it made it hard for us to hear each other, which if you go back through and listen to that cast, you could probably notice we have probably talked past each other. It probably was less conversational because sometimes we just literally didn't hear what the other said. There's very often times where it seems to be very hard to get the audio in our ears correct. So that's just been a general issue. Whether some things are too loud or some things are too quiet. That's also just been another part of the whole audio problem. But important thing. Yeah.
I was going to say that this has been like probably close to a half hour of relative negativity and criticism. So I want to take a moment and just say that I really like the graphics package.
Yeah. I was actually heading to a positive direction too. I think the graphics package was really cool. They did fuck up initially with the graphics for the English stream. It's something about the graphics and the bit rate. They couldn't basically do the graphics that they wanted to, and had to basically make a switch.
It's a rookie mistake.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that they relatively quickly and were able to fix. And I think the biggest takeaway for me about this is that we have had problems, but there are at least certain people who really seem to care about the broadcast and are working super hard, and we are fixing it. Just like the group stage, day 1, really bad. Day 2, still having problems. Day 3, 4, and 5, I think we're relatively problem-free of the group stage.
So by the time I get there, maybe there'll be air conditioning? Is that...
No, that part will not. You're still gonna be hot. But I do think that today went relatively smooth, and so I don't know. And so we've had a lot of problems, but I don't necessarily know where the responsibility lies. And that is always the part that I get the most upset about. So I get pretty angry sometimes with production if I feel like somebody has responsibility for something and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So, you know, like I never get like, I guess, angry, but I do sometimes get a little bit like strict, I guess, and being like, hey, like I did with the whole, like, hey, you guys need to send a production guy here. Like that's important. And I do feel, I don't know where the responsibility lies in most of this and all the problems that we're talking about, but it does seem like there are a lot of people who care about it. And I do know that both organizers in this regard are pretty inexperienced, but they are hard. Very passionate.
What they're doing is very difficult. Like, that should be clear.
Yeah. For sure. And I think, you know, you could have taken an easier route and done like a major without an audience, for example. You could have done one of those that is just made for a broadcast only or something like that. So I do think that this is a major that is probably hurt by inexperience and lack of preparation. But is probably going to be carried by the end of it. I mean, I'm really crossing my fingers here, but I hope it's like the group stage, and that it's going to be carried to an acceptable point by the end, by largely passion and extremely long hours for production people. Honestly, every single production person I see, because some of them have like this is not their fault, and they're just trying to put out fires that were not that they did not start. So I feel really bad for a lot of production people. There's one audio guy that I see all the time whose voice is like completely shot. I was involved in a brief conversation with him where he was doing some problem solving for the group stages, and he was the one who said like, oh, we can run, it's easy, it's fine, we can run a line from the second floor to the third floor of the hotel because it's directly above the player rooms, so we can't actually get good internet for the broadcast. Like he seemed like he was fixing that problem, which probably was never his responsibility to begin with. So I feel really bad for a lot of the people I see running around and trying to fix shit.
It's the best way to learn.
I'm optimistic that we're gonna get there.
It's really the best way to learn for people too. Like that's how these things get better, when people make mistakes and grow from them. I know that's like basic. I don't want to sound like dad, but there's going to be so much that ePulse, 4D, the people on the ground, everybody else take away from this to only make future events better. Does it suck that there's like a problem with the current one? Yeah. Is it embarrassing and hard to deal with? Absolutely. But like, if we zoom out,
just to be clear, this whole entire thing is unacceptable. Like they're like somebody fucked up big. I just don't know who that is, so I can't put them on blast. There are a lot of people who aren't responsible, and that's why I'm trying to sympathize. But there's somebody out there. I just don't know who that motherfucker is. But there's somebody out there that this shit is unacceptable.
Is it
but
easy
to everybody
to
else, this is like crazy hard, and I feel for them.
That's what I'm talking about. Is it easy to just say that it's Valve's fault?
Whoa, hold on. Did I say motherfucker? No, I don't think the buck stops with Valve. I don't know what you mean, Joey.
Copy. I think it's easy to run up the chain to the top and put some kind of liability on there, but it's obviously not a one person thing. My thought, what I can't help but think about is that okay, I have no fucking idea how any of this works, but if I were the people who was RFPing, requesting proposals from companies to run one of my events, I would hope that the amount of questions and checking that is happening of what's gonna be done for the people who are representing my brand and stuff is more thorough, because I suspect that some of this could have been sussed out in that process. And I'm sure there was business decisions made about cost benefit, what's important, what's not important. But I think that, again, not knowing a lot, there's a lot of responsibility that goes to the people who approved this happening. The
vetting process is pretty important there. I do know that there are definitely people who just lie about what they have or their credentials or
I've done
their
that.
resume when it
I've
comes
done
to
that to people. I shouldn't say that. Like most production companies do that, right? Like they go, yes, we can do it, and then figure it out later. And the really good ones actually can do it, or they know how to figure it out, or they get enough money so they can pay the right people to figure it out. And then sometimes you see the productions companies that fumble on stuff like this are the ones who overcommit and don't have those solves to figure out what they committed to. I would say that most production companies overcommit to a little bit of stuff because they're a business. They want the business, right? Like if someone's going to be like, hey, can you give me a back rub? I'll be like, of course I can. Maybe I don't know how to give a good massage. Maybe I can hire someone else to give a massage, but like I'm not going to lose the contract because I say that I can't give a back rub.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, it's the responsibility ultimately Valve's. I mean, my takeaway, my personal philosophy is yes. I think that when this is probably just like my experience with the military speaking, but like you are responsible for your chain of command, right? So, if you contract something out to somebody, it is still your responsibility to contract out the right people. I do think there's probably at least some responsibility for Valve, because I think my general understanding is I do think that Valve wanted to be able to have an SA major. And it makes sense for multiple reasons, right? SA is one of the few growing fan bases, I would say, for Dota. It's been an overlooked region for quite some time. So, there's multiple reasons to do it. But, if you're going to do it, make sure it's done right, or at least make sure somebody else is going to do it right. So that's my philosophy. I think that if you are in charge of something and you are in charge of someone and that person fucks up, I think you do hold at least some responsibility for their fuck up.
Yep. I agree. I agree. You want to talk a little bit about the actual event, but like not the actual event, like the results and how stuff's going?
Yeah, because the games have been a major save for, honestly, like Dota is really good at that. I think that so many times, and it's actually in some ways it kind of sucks. I have been a part of great productions and broadcasts that have not been ruined by the games, but definitely were not nearly as good because the wrong team got knocked out early, or because the finals was really shit, or something like that. And I've been a part of some really bad productions that were bailed out by good games, that everybody will just kind of like forget what the production was like or the experience was like because the game's really good. And so that is Dota's both. I feel like it's both a saving grace and kind of a shit situation, because it does just kind of cover up things. But the games have been really, really good. I think the group stage was super exciting. It was super competitive, except for Knights. The playoffs so far have been pretty interesting. I mean, the first series we casted was Aster Gaming Gladiators. That was kind of shit. But I think at least two of the other series that day were pretty entertaining. And then the series, we just got done watching EG Beast Coast, for anybody who wants a timeline of when we're recording this. That series was fun, but it was kind of one-sided. The previous one before that, Astra versus Tundra, I think was pretty exciting. At least the game 3 was, for sure. So far, I think the games have been quite good. Yeah.
What are some overarching narratives for you coming out of the group stage? For me, I'll toss one out there. I didn't fully expect China to perform so poorly. I think that I might have called on the last episode that I wasn't sure how Knights was going to perform at all, and like kind of put them in a bottom 3. But I didn't expect eHome to also go 3-13. LGD, started in the lower bracket. Astra's the only team from China that had an upper bracket berth. It feels like that was an interesting regionality situation for me. What's your take on Chinese Dota post this group stage now?
Not great. I mean, I was fairly certain that I was actually almost the opposite there. I was pretty certain that eHome was going to be bad, and I wasn't certain on Knights. I mean, Knights is pretty much just whether or not you believe they're cheaters or not, right? Like, if you think they're cheaters, then obviously you think they're going to probably be shit. So, but if they're not, then it's a little bit more up in the air. I mean, LGD, you can never totally naysay, and who knows, we still have a lower bracket that is open. I definitely thought Aster would do the best out of the Chinese teams, and I only had them in my top 4 prediction, which, they just knocked out Tundra, who I was also in my top 4 predictions, so my predictions have been pretty shit this major.
Tundra is the team that didn't follow along with the rest of Western Europe, right? Because Group A, Gaming Gladiators, first place. Group B, Team Liquid, first place. Second place, Entity. So Tundra was the little brother who wasn't really carrying the ball forward for Western Europe Dota right now, and it's a trend that I think we've continued to see and talk about through TI at this point. Is just kind of a regional domination there. And if we're just looking at the brackets, the 4 upper bracket teams left, 3 of them are Western Europe teams.
Yeah, it does kind of look like we're going to have a matchup in the upper bracket finals of Gaming Gladiators versus Liquid, given their dominant performances so far in the playoffs.
Entity versus Liquid.
Okay, you think it's going to be Entity?
Yep, 100%.
I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, to be honest. Yeah, Western Europe is pretty dominant, and I still think Tundra is a strong team. And I think if they had made it past Aster, I think there's a decent chance they might have made a pretty decent lower bracket run. I still think Aster can do that as well. Basically, whatever team came out of that matchup, I think has a pretty decent chance of making a lower bracket run. At least that's what my copium for my predictions is anyway.
You weren't expecting much out of Talon, were you? So having them seeded in the upper bracket was a little bit of a surprise, especially considering they're the only C team that wasn't eliminated in the groups.
Yes. So at least I was right about the C teams not doing so hot at the major. 2 of them did get eliminated. When I say these things, by the way, it is not like I'm not relishing that fact. It's just that was my honest analysis of the team strengths. And,
yeah, I think you had a good breakdown.
Talon,
like you watched them play all season.
Yeah, and I think Talon doing the best. It wasn't a surprise for Winter. Winter was like, yeah, I think Talon's the C team that will go through, and he was right about that. And I think a large part of it is they're just really fucking good, individually speaking. That I think maybe as a team and strategy, drafting wise, that sort of stuff, I think maybe they don't match up to the Western European teams. They aren't on that level, but like individually, I think they're super, super fucking skilled. So yeah, Geek Slate also, they did get eliminated off of a tiebreaker. But yeah, I don't think they would have made it that far. We'll see how Talon does in the lower bracket. They had to match up against Team Liquid. That's pretty rough, but you gotta beat the best if you want to win. So we'll see how they do in the lower bracket. I am not super optimistic about their chances there, though.
I think they can probably take Hellraisers, but I expect them to not make it past the Spirit LGD winner.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think that they can make it another round, but I think their chances diminish significantly in that following matchup.
For sure. Something that I think a lot of people were talking about was the expectations of BetBoom being much higher than a 6-10 8th place finish in Group B, only beating out Knights, who were quasi the joke of the event. So what's your take on BetBoom coming to LAN and like not performing? We joked about it, right? And like they're gonna lose one game and do like the mental boom, but that's more of a line that everybody was kind of pushing tongue in cheek. I don't think that's actually what happened, but they did get eliminated, and people had much higher expectations than that, I think, across the board.
Yeah, they're a team that I think they have probably one of the highest ceilings to floor gap. I think they're a team that individually you look at them and they can be a team that could be in the grand finals, or they could get eliminated right away. I am not going to read too much into it, though. I very briefly was like, maybe I put BetBoom in my top 4, and then I was like, nope, I'll do that next major. That was my thought. I was like, I'll do that next major if they prove it this major. They have to prove to me that they can actually do it on LAN, and not just do it online sort of thing. But so I didn't have them in my top 4, and I figured they would probably bomb out, and they did. But I'm not really gonna gloat about it because they were sick. So while being sick is not a total excuse, there have been plenty of teams and players who have been sick and still done very well at events. Flat out fucking won them. Snake King got COVID at TI-11 during the break time. There was that infamous, if you remember, S4 being all feverish way back in like 2014 or something like that. And I think Alliance did win that LAN. So it is not a total excuse, but it is somewhat of an excuse, right? We just don't know what they would look like if they were healthy. I think it probably does say at least something about them, right? You could definitely say that they either can't push through that very well, or that they just weren't ready for international Dota. Either way, it is what it is. They got eliminated. We're very, very, very likely to see them next major. I think because they were sick, they're probably not going to make any roster changes. So we'll likely see them dominate the DPC once again next season and be at the next major, and they'll have a second go of it. And
even in a lot of those losses,
fail that one, then that's probably how they disband.
Yeah, even a lot of those losses, Pure had some of the best stats. Like the entirety of the group stage, which I think still speaks volumes
really
about their individual play, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Last team, I lied actually. I want to talk about North America a little bit. Oh, I made a mistake. EG's not North America anymore. Excuse me.
Oh, you mean Shopify Rebellion?
No, actually, I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about TSM, who was eliminated, but like put up some pretty good fights. I mean, they took a game off Gaiman. They took 2 games off of LGD. They didn't flop. They came, out of the region in first place. And should we still be hopeful of them having like a good, deep year-long run? And this is like a team who's having like first time together at a major jitters?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I think it's similar to the Six situation. You have 2 players who have never been on LAN before. That is not a complete excuse. There are plenty of players who royal roaded their way to TI at this point. I think 2 of them just did it this last TI. There's, of course, Thompson and Anna, who did it for TI 8, like many of Team Spirit. So there are players who could do that. It's not a total excuse, but they do have 2 players who've never been on LAN, so you can give them some excuse there. And then also just in general, the scores, right? Like we said, besides Knights and maybe eHome, there was no team that just completely shit the bed. TSM got eliminated with the score of 6-10. Same goes with Execration. Same goes with Bet Boom. Geek Slate got eliminated off of a tiebreaker with a score of 7-9. Right, so these are teams that did put up wins, just not enough of them. They took games off of other teams. They went 1-1 again, against a multitude of teams. If this was a best of 3 group stage, maybe that looks different, and maybe they're a team that would have been able to close out a game 3 in a 1-1 scenario, and then that's just a straight up W instead of a tie, right? So. Yeah, not too much to read into it. They're still, no matter what, like, you read into it all you want, but, like, ultimately, they're still going to be the second best NA team. Similar to Bet Boom, we're still going to see them at next major, most likely. So, it's, you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. Final team, I was a little bit worried going into this year of international competition that the success we saw from South America would not fully be carried over past TI. And I think EG is proving that little nagging hypothesis I have in my head wrong. And that they are here to stay, and that they are serious, and that they can take games in group stage, that they can win games on stage, and could, really pan out to have a remarkably successful year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think, going back to TI8, Beast Coast or Infamous, I guess, at that time, they showed that at the biggest tournament, they could, take it to some of the best teams in the world. And I think my only pessimism about South America after that was the depth of the region, similar to NA. How deep is the region? And then for Beast Coast specifically, like, honestly, I felt like at some point in time, I think after probably TI9, I was like, okay, kind of feels like that, if you really want to win, if you want to win TI, you probably need to shake things up. And I was super happy after TI 11 that Because and Whisper are going to be on the same team together, because I think Because, Whisper, and Matthew, those are the 3 best players coming out of South America right now. They are, let's see, Whisper, top 3 offlaner in the world. Because, top let's say like top 6. I don't know. I guess I would have to like look at his performance a little bit more closely. But at one point in time, I mean, you know me, I was preaching this guy's name. I thought he was super fucking good as a carry. And I definitely think he's like in the top 10 of carries, let's say. Matthew, top
I'd go
10.
farther than that. Yeah, I'd say Picard still might be. I'd easily say top 5. Who's better?
Yeah.
Pure, Monet? Yeah.
You want to say anybody from your own team there or no?
Okay, I wasn't trying to do that. Who do I actually think is better? I think Mickey's better. I think Monet's better, and I think Yotaro might be better. That's it.
Yotaro, I would definitely put up there. I think Arteezy makes a pretty decent argument for himself, especially given his performance on stage recently. Matthew, I think, also in top 10 internationally support. So like just those 3 players alone, best players coming out of South America, all on one team. You know, I think this sort of shakeup is kind of what you need if you want to be able to win TI. All-star teams do not actually have a pretty, like bad history in Dota. Those are not the teams that typically win TI. Maybe they'll win some majors, right? A la like Secret, if you remember the Superstar Secret, right? They dumpstered the shit out of the entire year until it came to TI. But I do think that it's still the right idea. Right, you can't just be like, oh, you can't do an all-star team and intentionally not put the best players together. That's silly. So yeah, I totally have faith. I think that when this EG roster was put together, for me it was like, oh, this is South America's run at TI. I was pretty confident that they were going to beat Beast Coast in today's match. They did, and I'm very confident that they are the best team to take on. Of the 2 teams in South America, I'm very confident EG is the best one to play internationally and have a chance. And their next matchup is Aster, which is super difficult. So, this may all fall flat tomorrow or the next day when we see that matchup. I think it's tomorrow.
It's 2 days from now. It's 2 days from now.
Oh, okay.
March 3rd. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's only 3 series a day from now on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've been talking for about an hour, mostly about the major. Feels fit. Podcast is going to go up pretty quickly. It's what people want to talk about. There's so much other stuff that happened that also probably genuinely has its own hour of conversation that could be attached to it relatively easily. The big one I'm thinking about is the BTS news. What do we want to do?
Before we get to the BTS news, can we talk about Knights real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about Knights. Austin, why do we need to talk about Knights? Again, nobody is having problems in the DP. I don't know what you're doing with this all. There might be cheating stuff. I'm going to keep towing that line, buddy. I'm not going to fall to this opinion until I have to be proved otherwise.
Okay, well, so all I really have to say about this is... So I am fine with, if there isn't really conviction from Valve, especially since we talked about it before, Valve seems to act pretty quickly on this sort of thing. I'm just going to operate under the assumption that they are not cheaters. But I will just say that I have heard a lot of rumor mongering. Nothing that's like, oh, yeah, I know they're cheating or anything like that. But everybody is suspicious. And
you don't want that reputation.
For better or for worse. Yeah, exactly. For better or for worse, whether they did it or not, that reputation is pretty rough. And there's definitely people who have some strong opinions that they are cheaters. There's definitely some other opinions that these things are possible. There was the Valve banning cheaters ban, which I think does give some credence to the fact that they are not cheaters, but there's also just as easily that in there, I have no inside information, just to be clear. So I've crafted this little fucking story in my head, but if this could clear them, but I could also see a world where Valve hears about this accusation, Knights are cheating, they look into it, right? Because it's gone public. Of course, if you are a cheater, you're going to stop cheating, surely, right? Because otherwise you're going to get caught.
Presumably.
Yeah, presumably, if you're not totally stupid. Valve does some research and looks into this sort of thing, maybe they find this whole honeypot exploitation thing that they ended up using to banning a bunch of people. But by that point in time, the people they're originally looking into had already stopped.
Really badass, by the way, to just do a honeypot. Like really.
Oh, yeah.
Really badass. And I could, read in that blog post that there was, a little bit of bragging happening. At least that's the subtext that I put in there. It's like, hey, guys, so we devised a honeypot. Like, it's some kind of fucking James Bond movie, right? Just so, I feel like I only ever hear that term used if I'm watching an episode of a TV show.
Yeah, I think there's three reasons for that blog, and that is one of them, right? One, Valve looks kind of badass there, right? You just honeypotted 40,000 people or whatever the fuck. That's pretty fucking cool. Mm-hmm. Two, I think it helps the community. It lets the community know, hey, we are paying attention to this, and especially in the world of Dota, where cheating can be. There's some cheating that it's not, but Dota cheating can be relatively hard to detect, and I think there are absolutely people who are paranoid, who make false accusations, and this general idea that cheating is everywhere. Some people fall into paranoia and they spread this idea even further, right? And blow it out of proportion. I'm not saying that there aren't a large amount of cheaters. I'm just saying if you fixate on that and everybody's talking about it, you're going to be jumping at ghosts all the time. So I think that it helps combat that community sentiment. So it assures everybody, and it helps, people maybe not feel like every game, if somebody hits a 6 Sunstrike, when they don't have vision, they don't immediately go, oh, that guy's cheating, right? And the third reason was, and I felt especially because of the title, cheaters will never be welcome in Dota. I felt that was a general message of esports teams, players, hey, we're still fucking watching you guys. So don't be trying some shit, because not just cheating, but match fixing as well, right? It's important that people you as fucked up as this sounds, you gotta put some fear into people, you gotta make sure they got the fear of Valve in them. To keep them from doing this sort of thing, because honestly, I don't know how else to stop cheating and potential match fixing, other than just the fear of being caught doing it.
Something used me to think about, a voice seeing ghosts. It made me just kind of think introspectively for a second about how it's interesting to me that my personal experiences when I would play Counter-Strike a lot, which I used to play a fuck ton more. Just global elite, by the way.
Wow.
I would think to myself, on a somewhat frequent basis, are they wall hacking? I would probably have that thought 1 out of every 4 or 5 games, right? My are they cheating in Dota has happened on a times that I can count on less than 10, probably. So it makes it feel like it is harder to detect people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Plus there are other things that you can blame, right? In Dota, you can blame your team instead of the enemy is just outplaying the shit out of you and seems to know where every ward is and stuff. You could instead just blame your team for not doing.
Yo, can you fucking D-ward?
Yeah. Can you fucking D-ward? They know where I am all the time. That is the first thought you're going to go to, is this motherfucking 5 position isn't doing his fucking job. God damn it. And not the fact that the enemy is actually map hacking your ass every single time you move around. So, yeah, I agree with you. I very rarely think of cheating. But once you start getting into that mindset, you're going to start thinking about it more and more, and maybe, the opposite. Maybe that same person is always thinking it's map hacking when, instead they actually just have wards on your ass all the time.
I don't think we've ever talked about this before. Do you think Overwolf was cheating?
I don't have a strong opinion on that, honestly. Like, I can see both sides. I think spamming heroes is acceptable, but kind of annoying. But I don't really, like, that shouldn't be illegal. Like, yeah, people should be allowed to play a hero over and over again if they want to. I probably don't think the most charitable of you. Just to be clear, I don't have a single hero in Master Tier. I don't think I have a single hero that I've played more than 700 times, I would say.
No, but if I queued up against you, I'm 100% going to ban techies.
Sure. Understandable. My techies did go from never being picked to platinum relatively quickly. So you know, you
same with slacks, right? Like, you know, there's heroes that I'm gonna ban against people, but that's because I know signature heroes, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that shit. I think it's annoying. Yeah. And if I know that somebody is predominantly only ever plays Arc Warden, I'm gonna be like, let's just add that to the ban list.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't know what else Overwolf really does for you. That is like, I know about the banning hero hero spammer aspect of it. That's what I know it for. So I don't really know what else it does, because I've never used the program, and I've never really worried about it too much, because I myself, while I will spam probably a subset of heroes that I'm enjoying playing at a period of time. I typically don't play the same hero more than, like, let's say 4 games in a row or something like that. I do like to have some variety, and I do cycle between probably about 10 to 20 heroes every, like, meta, let's say. So I've never like felt like I'm being sniped by bans or anything like that.
I think it harms most of the people who really are. This is a league term that I don't think we use much, but one tricks, the people who just are your Invoker, your Pudge, your Arc Warden, your Techies, your what have you player. Like, I know when people have Overwolf generally because I see more Chaos Knight bans, right? And I can make the assumption that, you know, that's generally not a hero that is getting targeted bans in pick ban stages. But when they are, I'm like, someone probably has looked at my game history. They know that I've played a lot more games on that hero, right?
Yeah, your hero is not super meta very often.
Correct.
Right. So it definitely stands out a little bit more. Like, if you were a Pudge spammer or a Rubik spammer, you know, you probably wouldn't give a second thought about that hero being banned. But
yeah. Exactly. So I also don't have a lot of strong feelings about it. I suspect that it is net positive, because if anything, I don't like the idea of somebody using tools outside the game to very quickly and efficiently, like, look up people's Dota buff profiles. It feels like it's an extra layer of advantage, even if it's really small, that is benefited to the people who are, like, installing the software or using these services. So that like, I think it's a positive. I don't think it's the end of the world, because I can still go look at people's Dota buff if I want to and be like, that motherfucker plays a lot of Slark.
What do you think about ultra-wide monitors in Dota?
Is there a difference? And if there is, I'm ignorant to it.
There is. I have actually seen it. So you can actually see more of what you would see regularly. So it's like having a kind of a zoom. I could be wrong, but, like, I don't have an ultra wide monitor. I've never actually seen one in person.
I'm looking at one right now.
Have you ever played Dota on it? You should try it. Like, I'm fairly certain I've seen, like, you could just see more. In fact, I think my Discord was talking about it. Shout out to the Discord. Join the Discord.
I will load it up. This is my work computer that I podcast on, and I actually don't have games on here because I try and be a good boy. But let me load it up because I'm using a Dell ultra wide monitor.
Okay.
So I'll
and then back. What do you think about this one? I actually did get from my Discord for sure. Was somebody said that they use like a I don't know, zoom tool, like they copy basically their mini map and put it up on their second monitor. I was like, oh, that's pretty. I saw that and I was just like, oh, that's pretty clever.
Yeah,
Then you just have a giant fucking like mini map next to you that you can kind of see out of the corner of your eye. That's a lot, easier, I guess.
I saw a Reddit post about this too, and I thought to myself, I would try doing that. I don't think that there's how can you fault somebody for using their technology in a way to set it up? Like, it's not really cheating. You're just making the minimap more accessible. I can make an argument maybe it's too small for people and they're trying to like improve their gameplay experience. Does it help? Yes. So, here, let me throw one back at you. What do you think about somebody who puts a physical crosshair on their monitor? Like, you're playing Counter-Strike, you're opping, and you have like a little piece of gum where your crosshair would be. So when the game doesn't provide you a crosshair, you can still kind of see what center is. What do you think about that? Because to me, those feel kind of the same.
What about the guy who has the hanging fucking, like microscope, the zoom in, the like physically like see closer to the monitor. Like I'm fine with all of these things, not in a competitive aspect for people doing that. All of those things I'm pretty fine with, even like the ultra wide monitor, I think. But I am still I agree with you that I think it's probably a net positive, because I also agree having some sort of software to help you. I'm not a super big fan of it, and that's why I've never used it. But I've never bothered to think about it too much and be bothered by it.
I think that the first thing you touched on, the idea that like Valve gets to tell the community like, hey, we're working on this. Hey, we recognize it's a problem. Hey, we're making the experience better, is the biggest improvement and positive come out of this, because like, oh, they do care. It's like, man, Dad does care about me, because that's something that gets levied Valve's way a lot, is like they don't care. It's important in a relationship to show affection. And to me, this feels like Valve is just showing us a little affection.
I think it's... So I think Valve's relationship in this specific instance, it's kind of like my parents' relationship when it comes to my job. So what I mean is, I don't think they really know or care too much about what I do. What they care about is that I'm happy. And I think in this instance, this is one of those things where I'm not sure if Valve actually feel that strongly one way or another about Overwolf and like DOTA buff and private profiles and stuff like that. What they do more so care about is how the community feels about it. So whenever you guys like think about like, oh, I don't like, say you were one of those guys that were like, oh, I fucking hate Overwolf. Well, you gotta start launching a campaign to like get the rest of the community on your side. And once there's enough push against this sort of thing, then I think that's when Valve steps in and says like, okay, you guys don't like this, then we'll take it out. So that if you ever get super mad about something in that regard, just remember, Valve probably doesn't care that much. They just more so care that you're happy. So you gotta make sure that other people join with you in saying on how unhappy you are with the situation.
My take on this is I don't think Valve would have done it if Riot didn't do it first, and then have a lot of people
did Riot do something recently?
Riot did do this a couple months ago. They did something very similar where they basically did the same thing for like different software, right? So I think that a dam broke metaphorically when people can be like, but guys, Riot did it, and then everyone can go, yeah, maybe it is a good idea. And I think that was probably the inflection point of this particular situation. Yeah.
Because, I think if Valve really cared about it that much, they would have shut it down a while ago, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like Overwolf was a new program, right? I've been hearing about this thing for forever. So.
Years.
Yeah.
Do we want to table a conversation about BTS? Or is there
I actually talked to a reporter about BTS yesterday, and I talked about I probably talked about some shit that I probably shouldn't have.
Oh no.
I went real in depth to my thoughts about like esports and its future and like Saudi Arabia and all kinds of things that are probably I mean, I've talked about on this podcast, but
Yeah.
you know.
But now someone
Anyway,
make a headline out of it.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, the dude said he's going to send me whatever he uses, and I can give my feedback on whether or not I want it to be used. So I'm just kind of joking. I'm sure it's fine, but it's more so that this BTS thing is pretty sad, and I do think it says a lot about the esports industry and its direction, and yeah, and I think most of that direction is that it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't know like a quick way to even touch on it. It's like, did you also see the news compounded that like the ESL group bought Esports Engine?
No, that is the basically a bunch of the former MLG employees
Who had a merger with NGE. Basically, the people who did grassroots to medium tier white label production, which is BTS and Esports Engine, in two different ways just evaporated in the span of 72 hours, which is mind-blowing. And what I assume, again, a lot of speculation on this show, forgive me, Esports Engine might have been in a similar spot to BTS where the finances just weren't making sense, right? And where BTS either chose not to do VC or sell or what have you years ago, and that caught up to them now. Esports Engine might have been investing in that for a while and just pulled the trigger because of market conditions that were obviously also hurting BTS, right? So now you have one production company who's been, bought up and conglomerated. It's probably like looked at as a success story. And then one who did not go that path, who didn't take the VC, who didn't buy out, who didn't get the contracts, and now they're gone. And by they're gone, we mean people who are very good at their jobs, some industry leaders are gone. A company that is truly integrated and important into Dota's history and growth and spot on Twitch and everything is just gone. A company that was super important to Smash. A company that was working on productions for people like Ludwig and big content creators and other games and had business and had a studio and had like 30 people on payroll, I think. Just gone. And why is that? Is it because market conditions are so bad right now? Because esports is a bubble? Because people don't want to spend money to run tournaments, because people like, name like a tier 3 game that would run esports like isn't looking for business from BTS because BTS can't get a contract from Valve for whatever reason. It seems like there's no money, right? And you can't run a business if you have no money, and you can sit here and investigate like how we got to the point, but that some of that feels kind of moot because we're here and they're not. Not to be too fucking melodramatic about it, but it's...
I mean, to add on to that, I think Beyond the Summit was an organization that was grassroots built out of the Dota community, and they should have been the first guys in line to be getting paid and be successful in Dota, but instead they were like one of the first big names to walk away from Dota. They stopped doing a lot of Dota stuff. Part of that was, of course, COVID, because the summits, can't really operate during COVID, but they never came back and brought them. We never did a Dota summit, I think, after COVID started. And they didn't get a DPC this season. They should have been first in line for this sort of thing, given everything they've done for Dota. And I think it's a very bad sign both for esports, but particularly Dota, that they moved away from Dota and ultimately are not in the space at all anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Maybe there's more to talk about later as stuff continues to unfold, but just like the when the news hit, I was like in a meeting. I was just in a meeting. It was a normal work meeting, and then somebody's like, "Hey, I think BTS just shut down," and I went, "No." like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. And then, you see LD's tweet, and then suddenly like 10 people who were like having an important conversation just stop to be like, holy fuck, what is going on? It's shocking, and in some cases appalling, and not appalling at BTS, like appalling at this situation and the climate. It's almost like you don't want to believe it to be the case for a bunch of reasons, right? It's like akin to like a surprise death happening, because I mean, kind of that's what it is. Companies aren't people, but
yeah. I mean, you were the one who broke the news to me. I was shocked. I definitely did not see that coming. I don't talk to the BTS guys like regularly or anything, but I do talk to LD. Every once in a while. I would consider as friends for sure. I talk to Gods probably a little less than that, but I would say we're friends as well. Hoppit used to work for BTS. I talk with him decently regularly. So Dakota, friend of mine for sure. Much love to that guy. And yeah, I sent a message to all three of those guys. I think I'm going to end up hanging out with them and doing some sort of game night with them when I get back from Peru. And yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know exactly why. I mean, honestly, like I was surprised by this because I thought their whole move towards the creator economy stuff would just made sense. I don't know how you felt about it, but I thought for them like esports having a downturn, going into streaming, which is only getting more popular. I thought that was like a pretty smart business decision, but apparently it was not paying the bills.
I don't know if it's like a too many eggs in one basket situation. I don't know if it was. It's impossible to know unless someone's telling the story, right? I guess some of our job of doing like a podcast that people are listening to is to speculate on some stuff, but it feels so much more icky to do it when I know these people. Because like some of the stuff that I was so surprised about was that it always felt like BTS had such a market advantage, right? Like they were some of the first people to be doing this. They were successful grassroots. They had the world on, like there was a period of time where they were the most popular Twitch channel that existed, right?
Yeah,
and like
they had the most authenticity of any tournament organizer or event production. Right.
They had some of the best content that was made at events, like bar none. They have industry leaders in multiple different fields in broadcast. Like I don't know. Like they had all those things. They had like the big Ludwig connection, and he seems to just throw money at everything. They had so much that's like how did it happen? And just to be like, we decided not to take VC, or we decided there's not a lot of people spending money on it. Like that all makes sense, but how did it get here? Like it sucks. It genuinely sucks. It sucks more knowing these people. It sucks more hearing about their pain and the stories that like won't be public. It's a bummer for Dota.
Yep.
And you know what?
Part
if
of a
fucking
general
BTS
esports downturn as well.
You're right. And if fucking BTS was doing this major from a studio without an audience, or like in a small shack in Los Angeles, I don't think we'd be having these problems.
Yeah, probably not.
It's a bummer. It's a fucking bummer. It's a genuine bummer. Lot of good memories. A lot of good people who are looking for work, and I'm hoping that I can snatch some up, but they should all find good homes. I couldn't imagine what kind of pain LD and Gods are going through.
Yep. All right. Enough of that BTS. This whole event needs some fucking positivity. So we're not ending the fucking podcast on that. We're gonna end it on looking forward to the rest of the event.
Team Liquid is going to win a major.
Yeah,
I will see you in Peru. We're gonna be on Austin, and on Saturday we're gonna be on the beach in Peru. How cool is that?
We are indeed. We're gonna be in a stadium with a very, very loud crowd. Probably one of the loudest crowds that I have ever been, physically a part of. Was that Beast Coast versus EG crowd? So, the hype is super, super real. A lot of the audience does check out for some of the other matches, but I imagine it's early on in the tournament. As we start getting down the line, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I imagine it's going to be packed and it's going to be loud and it's going to be super hype. And all the technical problems that we've had, it sucks for viewers, it sucks for everybody. It sucks for production, it sucks for talent, it sucks for everybody. But I do think or at least I hope we're rounding a corner, and we're going to be able to get through the rest of the tournament without any issues. There is one thing that I could say for certain, is that there is definitely not a lack of passion. There's a lot of people who do care a lot about this event, and they're working very hard to make things happen. So I'm decently confident we'll get there in the end. So, yeah.
I think that we're gonna have a crazy, awesome grand finals. I look forward to taking photos of Mickey crying and holding a trophy. That's gonna happen on Sunday. We're like a couple days away from that. And I'm not going to edit that out because it's just what's going to happen. I'm like a fucking future seer. What do they call those?
The more you put into this...
Fortune teller.
If you show up and they don't win, then it's going to start looking like it's your fault, Joey.
No, I actually... I sent Aiden a screenshot of I sent Sadie a screenshot of my flight, and I said, no pressure, bro.
All right. Is it possible for Liquid to be eliminated before you arrive?
No, because I will get there. I get there Saturday morning, and if they lose to Shopify tomorrow, which isn't going to happen, their next game is 7 a.m. Pacific, which is 10 a.m. Eastern, on March 4th. So I would be there for that Loto bracket quarterfinal game.
All right. Sounds good.